Enjoy listening to Nerd Social Club podcast? Well, go check out our partners at But Why Though Podcast Community. You can find them online at www.butwhythoughpodcast.com, and you can find them on Twitter at ButWhyThoughPC. Their website features comic reviews, movie reviews, TV reviews. Pretty much if there's something you enjoy about fandom, there is something on there for you. There's a whole host of other podcasts as well. You can find all of our previous podcasts there as well if you like to listen online. They're also currently looking for writers, so if you're interested in doing any kinds of reviews, reach out to them and give them a message. Thanks very much.
Welcome to the Nerd Social Club podcast. 105. Episode 105, I believe. Yeah, I managed to finish Clickbait, the Netflix series, while I was away. And really enjoyed it. Really good, twisty, turny, dark drama with an element of just showing you how scary the internet can be and how a well-written drama can utilize all of the modern traps that the internet provides. I won't say too much more than that. You'll understand if you've watched it, or but it's definitely, if you're looking for something to watch, which is like, listen, it's brand new IP. It's nothing pre-existing. It was like one of those nice little things that dropped, and where you get to watch something completely new. And I really enjoyed it. So if anyone's looking for a new show to watch, check out Clickbait on Netflix.
Slightly different, like, perspective or point of view to kind of keep the whole story fresh, is it?
No, it is a continual thing. It sort of comes in from different perspectives, but in a linear fashion. So it is one story. It just sometimes focuses on different people. But rather than like some things where it's a bit like where you might have a show which shows one side of things and then shows the same things happening again. This just continues in a linear story, but just coming from different perspectives.
Gotcha. It sounds interesting. I know a couple of people who've seen it said it seems to be pretty good and they're really enjoying it, and it's just very different. And I mean, that's all you can expect it these days. Like these days, if you can get a story out there that's telling a unique point of view and keeps it fresh and entertaining, that's all you want. Yeah,
that's essentially is. You want to be entertained, but you want it to have some kind of like element of what's going on in the real world. And that's what I really liked about it, is that it did have a lot of these tropes that you heard different things about these. So I mean, not quite like Black Mirror level, but all of these little traps that seem to be in the show are things you've heard about, I would imagine, in terms of like where people have fallen down on the internet, but it's put into one linear story, which makes it even better. And a lot of the things you don't see as well, you just don't see them coming. So I really, really enjoyed it. So definitely worth checking out.
Nice. Gonna have to give that one a watch. I was gonna say I watched something that is not out yet, but I did post. Ooh, fancy. But I did post my social media reactions on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram if you want to go check them out. But I got to watch early screeners of Star Wars Visions, which is the anime anthology series, which is in, I guess it's still kind of canon, but it's just random stories around the Star Wars galaxy at different points in time. Yeah. And each episode is done by a different anime studio. And they're only short. They're about between 13 to 22 minutes long. It's 9 episodes, and I believe they're all going to drop just like in one season. So when that launches live on Disney Plus, you'll be able to kind of just binge through. And some of them are absolutely amazing, really, really good stuff. I'm going to be doing a full review, and we should be putting that out on our YouTube next week, Tuesday, I believe. But yeah, no, it was just really enjoyable. It was good. There were some episodes that aren't fantastic, but a lot of episodes were just great viewing. And again, short, but it kind of shows the power of Star Wars, the stories that can be told, because they're all so different, and it's very different to what we've seen as far as even like from the Mandalorian, any of the movies or anything like that. So when those eventually drop, I encourage everyone to go watch it.
Without giving anything away, are they all adaptations of original stories?
They are all original stories. Set
are they all
completely new characters and everything?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they were just taken original content and like done something with it, and just put it into a different kind of form.
Yeah. No. So there are a couple of canon characters that do come into it.
Okay.
But I would say for the most part, it's all brand new, original stories, new characters. And you don't get a lot of detail again because it's short. It's just meant to be this very, direct story. Here's something that happens, person, obstacle, get to the end kind of thing. So, and some of them are pretty dark as well. I was surprised, but entertaining, good stuff.
When does that drop?
I believe that is next Wednesday, the 22nd of September.
On Disney Plus, of course.
On Disney Plus.
So much stuff on Disney Plus at the moment. I mean, I know it's different for you guys because of Hulu and stuff, but in the UK and Europe, there's so much stuff on the platform. It's unbelievable. Like the amount of content that has started to drop recently. New stuff and old stuff, but like just the depth of like different things. Obviously, like The Walking Dead here, the final season is on Disney Plus here, and just lots of old shows, new shows. But I was going to say,
did you get Why the Last Man on Disney Plus Star?
I think we did, yeah. Because I was away last week. I think. I was
going to say it's definitely one of those shows that's on my list because that's a comic book adaptation, which at the time it's an older comic book, like early 2000s, I think, when it first came out. But the concept was really kind of interesting and intriguing to me. So I'm kind of glad they've made a TV show out of it. And I believe the TV show's pretty good, but that is on FX. And then because Disney owns FX, it goes on Hulu like straight away. So I assumed because it's FX and it's Hulu, I imagined it would have gone on Disney Plus right away. So try and stall a little bit longer while you look it up and get that smartphone working. And
I'm looking. I'm actually look. It's on Disney Plus on the 22nd of September. It airs here. So
I imagine it's probably going to drop episodes weekly from there then. So
yeah, and that's going straight onto Disney Plus. And the other things that we've had recently, like American Horror Stories, Walking Dead, Only Murders in the Building.
That's I was to say that was a Hulu one. Some of those are like Fox, some FX.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that's dropped recently on Disney Plus. It is.
Well, I mean, I was going to say we're coming into that time of year as well, aren't we? As summer draws to an end, fall starts, all the network TV shows start. I mean, I feel like even with Netflix, like they're starting to get going. Like their bigger shows tend to be aimed more at that fall season when they know there's going to be bums in seats, there's going to be eyes in front of the TV. So why, try and drop that in the summer when, more people are probably out on vacation, out in the backyard, why waste it? Save it for the fall and the winter or autumn. Save it for the autumn.
Yeah, of course, that's it, isn't it? You people, as you just said there, people are indoors and it's the good time to catch people on TV. So it's interesting that with the streaming thing, isn't it? Because streaming's obviously all year round, and they have to keep it busy all year round. But I just wonder whether they do have certain programming elements that do come into more in vogue in the maybe longer seasons come on. Maybe in the summer you have a lot of one-off. I've noticed that recently on Netflix
movies.
There's a lot of one-off. Movies, but also a lot of one-off documentaries, just like one episode. And I wonder whether when the autumn comes in or fall, is that they start hitting longer documentary series, like 6 to 8 episodes to keep you occupied. Obviously, done in different ways, of course, but really, really interesting, and there's just so much with all the streaming channels and everything. So, one thing that did happen this week is I managed to bag myself a PS5. It finally happened. It's on its way now to Santa Claus, aka Father Christmas, aka Coke advertising slave. It's on, so I will get it. I will get my PS5 for Christmas. But very timely, because I wanted a PS5 last year and I couldn't get one. And I know a lot of people in the same position. But I haven't really been that arsed. I was
gonna say, like, we've talked about this before on the pod. You haven't exactly been actively looking for it, really, because that's the thing about the PS5, right? Like, there's not been, and I say the same for the Xbox as well. There's not been any big, like, tentpole game. Like, you've got Miles Morales, but it's a very shortened version of, like,
it's an expansion. Yeah. It's an expansion from the Spider-Man game, and there's been nothing really huge come out. And obviously, listen, we've had a global pandemic, and I know that's led to certain things, certain parts for the actual hardware to mean that you couldn't get it. It's starting to ramp up a little now, and they're becoming more readily available. But the games just haven't been there, and there's a lot of like remakes being made and a lot of older games from the PS4, and that's what I've done. I've just basically bought older games for my PS4 and just played them rather than getting anything for anything that was actually made for the PS5, which is that very, very little. But in the last week, we had the PlayStation had their showing of their new games, and we did get a couple of announcements on new Marvel games. A Spider-Man 2 game, which will feature Venom as well as Spider-Man and Peter Parker Spider-Man and Miles Morales as Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's huge.
Which looks really, really good, but also made by the same company.
Yeah,
we are getting a Wolverine game as well, both made by Insomniac, which really they should be making they should have made the Avengers game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know,
100%.
like, I know Marvel was like, are not having all the games made by the same people, because another Guardians of the Galaxy game coming out is going to be made by someone else as well. But I find it strange that you wouldn't want to incorporate something that had already worked within a larger universe. But Wolverine will be coming, and hopefully that could mean crossovers with Spider-Man, and yeah, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge because, as you just said, the original Spider-Man game was fantastic because it was the real first game that really, really, really showed how comic book characters can be used in games, and the free roaming of New York
set the bar completely.
Yeah, completely, and had fresh ideas and had some. I mean, of course, listen, don't get me wrong. When I talk about comic book, I'm talking about Marvel, because the Arkham games were unbelievable. They were the thing that set They were the thing that set the bar, and Spider-Man took that on. And obviously, the difference was Arkham, a very dark game, obviously set in DC, whereas the Spider-Man game is very light and set in New York, huge bustling city. Miles Morales took that on, and hopefully, Spider-Man 2 will take that on even further, and hopefully Wolverine taking us outside of New York, and we'll start introducing some, obviously X-Men characters, and hopefully some other characters as well from the larger Marvel universe.
Because you've got some great, even within that world of just mutants in general, you've got some great villains to play about with there. So it would be curious to see like what gets used and how it gets used as far as, Wolverine's story in the larger game, obviously.
Definitely.
Yeah. But it's such a smart move, like you said, like the whole kind of doing a sequel to the Spider-Man. And I think it was always going to be expected as well. And I think Miles Morales just kind of gave a taste of what to expect. But like you said, it's kind of like a glorified DLC expansion pack. So it's good to kind of get Miles in there as a playable character as well.
Yeah, I think they needed a game from the start. We've just got Cam in the comments from the Mighty Blues saying he's just finished Miles Morales, just completed it earlier. Absolutely excellent game. Yeah. I haven't actually played it yet, and I've sort of been saving it. I'm going to get it with the PS5. I have been saving it for the PS5 to see
Yeah.
To just see that difference, because the Spider-Man game was just so, it was just so big, and it had so many challenges and so many like extra things. And I know some people found it repetitive, but I found that some of the challenges in it were like so rewarding because they were so tough. Like that, and that's half the thing sometimes. And sometimes when you play like these extra little, they had these just little extra things in them, and then obviously they had the DLC as well. That introduced more characters, and I think, you know, it challenged people because it was long, because it had all these extra things in it, because it had so many characters in it. It had, you know, it brought Miles Morales into the world.
Yeah.
You know, there was and then this one, and then Spider-Man 2 is gonna it just basically Miles Morales game give Insomniacs just that little bit of time to where people weren't asking, oh, is Spider-Man 2, it just give everyone that little bit of a breather. So
it was interesting because when that first came out, I mean, literally I'd go on Twitter and all I'd see was people doing like the PS4 shares of like their photos of like using Spider-Man and where they were in New York and outside of like Marvel HQ or outside of like the Sanctum Sanctorum and all this stuff, and you're just like, Jesus, this game is massive, and everyone was talking about it. Like we said, it did set the bar, but it's interesting because I think it opens up a larger question now. We're seeing Spider-Man 2, we're seeing Wolverine, we saw an Avengers game that didn't really live up to the hype in comparison. Do you think Marvel's kind of partnered with Sony in some aspect? Do you think there's kind of like, with what's already going on with the larger cinematic universe, and then looking at the games and thinking, you know, we can help each other out here. Like, maybe we can leverage a bit more of our IP towards your system as far as like the gaming platform and things like that, versus maybe we get a bit more leeway on, you know, getting some of these characters back in the main cinematic universe.
Yeah, it's difficult to always know the answer to that because, listen, Spider-Man is Sony's character in terms of movies. It's nothing else, of course. It's on every other platform. It's why Marvel can use Spider-Man in What If. And if anyone watched the episode last week, with Spider-Man in it, he was actually wearing his costume from the Avengers Campus costume from Disneyland, rather than wearing his Spider-Man costume.
The emblem was bigger, wasn't it?
Yeah. But so that's his emblem from the Avengers Campus, because that's a Disney property, that's a Marvel property.
Yeah.
But the film property is Sony, and that's why basically Sony only own the rights to the movies. They don't own the rights to anything else. They don't own
merchandise,
toys, cartoons, anything, games, anything.
And that's a good point as well. It's only the live action Spider-Man as well.
But obviously, it's and this is where Marvel and Sony have worked well with Spider-Man. It worked well for that agreement because Sony were making the money off the films, but Disney were making all the money off the merchandise and just because you're getting you're getting Spider-Man out there, you can have a game that is completely different to the movie, of course, but people will still attach that, and of course in the game as well, you could get his suit.
Yeah.
And when it went onto PS5, they changed his face to resemble Tom Holland as well, because people nowadays, and this is actually where the Avengers game fell down, one of the reasons it fell down was people did not recognize the characters in what they recognize now. It's like the Samuel Jackson effect of when they had the comics when it was Samuel Jackson looked like Nick Fury. It's people get used to one thing and can't break away from that and do not recognize it. And the Avengers game fell down because they just went away. And listen,
even the suit designs on Captain America, you like get that, you know, big like almost like body armor suit where you make the joke like, I'm not wearing hockey pads, and like, well, you are Captain America, Jesus, like, it didn't fit. It looked odd and off. Whereas
they could have got like costumes that were slightly like the movie ones, and then got voice actors that were closer to them.
Yeah.
That's up to them. That's what they want to do. You know, it's not necessarily Spider-Man voice acting isn't the same. It's just you just want something that resembles it, so that people have familiarity because they want to play. It's why I'm looking at the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, the new game, and I don't really like the look of that. It just doesn't fit with what my Guardians of the Galaxy is.
I was going to say that one looks more comic book related. The Avengers game, didn't even to me look like anything comic book. It was almost like we want it to be its own thing.
Yeah, of course,
but like it just felt like its own thing. But out here, where Guardians of the Galaxy definitely feels comic inspired.
Yeah, and Finn 21H in the comments said, to be fair to the Avengers game, they've now added the end game suits and they're now adding other suits. And of course, that game is always expanding. By the way, it hasn't. I was just say,
didn't do a Black Panther expansion on that as well?
It's always expanding. The game it's like never quite finished. It's always expanding, that game. So fair enough. But I think the biggest mistake they made is not going with the company that made the Spider-Man game, because Spider-Man is coming into that game. But it'll be a new Spider-Man, so it won't be the Spider-Man you recognise from that. And Marvel have built this amazing way, always, of the comics have their universe and the movies have their universe. So why don't the games have their universe? So at least is
that what you think would make like a game an empire then? A Marvel gaming universe that's all connected in some fashion.
Because we all are very comfortable with that. We all enjoy that. We all love the fact that the Marvel films are connected. It's the thing that all excited us when Marvel films started coming out. At the end, Samuel L. Jackson coming out saying, you're not the only one, kind of thing. And then let's be honest.
I was going to say, I've got these visions now in my head of these like gaming like post-credit scenes, like setting up like the next game.
There's two in at the end of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's I'm pretty sure there's two at the end of
it did tease Venom, didn't it, in Spider-Man? Like at the end, like wasn't it like Harry's in a tube or something, and it looks like there's a symbiote swimming in there with him or something.
Yeah, there's a it's honestly it's a little thing at the end. And people love that. People love that connectability. And so you've got now, going back to what we were talking about, you've got a new Spider-Man game, but you've also got Logan. And straight away, with the Wolverine thing straight away you're thinking these two games can connect, and that already gets you excited, because you're thinking these can be in the same universe. Whereas you take the Avengers game and you think to yourself, this can't be in the same universe. So therefore, they're going to bring their own new Spider-Man to it, and you're like, well, it's not the Spider-Man we're used to. So people already reject it. And that's where it's like, you should...
Well, especially when it was such a well-received, highly rated game. Like, I mean, Spider-Man came off the back with such success that it's kind of like, how could you not give more to it, you know what I mean?
But what we don't mind... Like, so you've got Gotham Knights coming out, right? Yeah. But the Arkham series is finished. Yeah. So you don't mind that, because it's a completely new thing. Because
you've got the Bat family now as well to it.
So, but how can this is where they've gone wrong, as far as I'm concerned. Is Spider-Man will come into the Avengers game and you'll have Spider-Man games, and people love the Spider-Man games. So people will reject that other Spider-Man, because that's just how our brains are wired now. We love connect. We love the world connecting. We love world building. We love people. People love universes. People love crossovers. Where me spoons are saying the thing in the comments there. We love things to cross over. We love the idea of this character that we love, our version, this character could turn up in that game or that film.
I think that's one of the like human things as well. Like, we're just not ever really ready to see things end, right? Like, because even shows, like, we love certain shows, and when they end, like, it's great, but you're still kind of like, there's still that part inside there that just wants to see a bit more. I wish they had another story to tell. I'd love to see from this person's perspective. What about if they did like 20 years later? I mean, people still talk about it with, like, you know, Harry Potter. We talked about it, you know, about Star Wars. You know, like, oh, what would that look like? What does it look like in the future or the past, or from a smuggler's point of view? And so I think in terms of games, like, I do tend to agree with you. I think people just don't want it to be over, especially when it was a great game.
Yeah, it's like the thing with, like, you just mentioned Harry Potter there. It's the idea of, like, people are actually waiting for the actors to age up so that we can get the cursed child.
Yeah.
Rather than having a reboot, people want that. People want to see that because they want we love that. Just love world building. We love the idea of the connectivity, and we don't even mind, like, you know, talk more about Shang-Chi in a little bit. No spoilers, by the way, because Aaron hasn't seen it. But even in that, it's like the idea is it's a new character, but there's a familiarity because it's set in the same world. So, like, if I'd said to my missus, genuinely, we're going to see this film called Shang-Chi, and she'd say, what is it? And if I said, yeah, it's just this film about this guy, and he finds out that his dad is this fella, and he wants, and blah, blah, blah. And if I'd said that, she'd say, no, I'm not really interested, but it's a Marvel film. Okay, yeah, it's a Marvel film. It's a Marvel film. You know,
yeah, because it's already, like, kind of like predetermined that, like, okay, well, it's gonna fall within a range. It's gonna have a certain format.
Yeah,
I don't want to say formulaic, because I feel like that does discredit to, like,
we went to see Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, it's like when we went to see Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, Shane, this doesn't look good. I was like, it's a Marvel film. Okay, well, so if it's a Marvel film, then you know, we'll go and see it. She loves it. She loves Guardians of the Galaxy. She loves all the Marvel films. But there's quite a few that she probably wouldn't have never seen if they were Marvel films. So it's mad. It is mad. We all. It's like, you know, I always say, like, Die Hard 3 is the funniest one ever. Die Hard 3 was a script called Simon Says, and it was knocked around Hollywood, and someone said, why don't we make that policeman John McClane and rewrite it so it's a Die Hard film and call it Die Hard 3, you know? Yeah, and they were like, that makes lots of sense. And then everyone went to see it because it's John McClane and it's Die Hard and it's in New York, and you know, he's back home in New York, and it's like, yeah, that makes complete sense. Like, it's a great film. You make the guy like Hans Gruber's brother, and everyone loves it. It's mad.
It just works. Finn, you had a comment in here saying, so the problem with Spider-Man games is it's Insomniac, which is Sony's company, limiting them to just PlayStation and not Xbox and PC. And unfortunately, mate, the way I've been watching things going, at least in gaming, from my very limited viewpoint, is I think the way that's how gaming's going, because you've got Xbox's bought out Bethesda, so now they've got, like, you know, exclusive access. Sony's already had trying to do some of these deals where they have exclusive games, bless you. But I mean, that's exactly why. Because I mean, even for me, right now I'm kind of I've been on the tip of the edge of
hang on. Right, if you don't buy a PS5, then we're finished, and we're finished forever, forever. So
you heard it here first, people.
No, I'll cut you off. I'll just cut you off. No, but it is though, because what's happening is, what they're finding out is, obviously, is that people are choosing one or the other, and then you need that reason why. And if it's you know, the buying you can't stop companies from saying, no, we want it on all the platforms. But if you own that company, you can. So
no, I mean, honestly, it's tough. It's a tough market out there. I mean, PlayStation, Xbox are going head to head, and they're looking for, you know, opportunities and advantages in any way they can get them, and, you know, making exclusive games with a studio that they trust. I mean, it does suck, because there is a certain element of, like, well, you know, you're only going to get it. You have to go, you know, one way or the other. But it's how some of these video game companies are going to get the edge.
And by having, and that's why I think it's really clever that they've just introduced two games at the same time that are two big Marvel characters. One that we haven't seen on the big screen yet, which I think makes it even more intriguing, because what that does actually is that sets what you've said is, well, you've had your Wolverine, you loved him, but he's gone now. But the new movie one hasn't been introduced. So here's something in the middle. Here's the stopgap. But also, it's going to be set within the world of a game that you already love. And I think that what that does straight away is, by saying, and it's a PS5, you get people like me, people like you, who go, oh, we have to have a PS5 now, where these games aren't coming out for another year and a half.
Oh, and I saw those game adverts, I'm like, damn, I need a PS5. Like, I actually tweeted out, I was like, how can I not get one now? And it's such a smart choice as well. Like, Spider-Man was so successful. Spider-Man is basically the face of Marvel. He's one of the most recognizable characters worldwide. But having Wolverine, he's such a huge character, so making him the next selection is a great choice. I mean, hats off to the people who made that decision, like going after no, let's go after another big character.
But the thing about
let's
that is,
do
though,
this.
just,
go for it.
We are going to move on now, but just to top that off, you have Wolverine, but of course, by having Wolverine, you introduce any and all X-Men characters that you want, essentially. So it might be a Wolverine game, because he's now everyone's favorite X-Men. Let's be honest, since the movies came out. I don't really know before that, but I don't know where his level was before that. But as soon as Hugh Jackman came and took him, he was then, he's the only real. Well, he's the only. X-Men
I was to say,
character.
I still remember in the 90s though, like Wolverine was just a cool character. Like, and he was probably one of the more heavily focused characters in the animation.
To be fair, he became big from the animation. You're right. He became big from the animation because kids of my age, when I was that age, I was watching the X-Men cartoon, and
cool,
I'm watching this dude run around with these fingers coming out of his hand, and I'm like, that's amazing. That is amazing. He's the man. Like the other guy.
Well, he was also just like angry and just seemed to like hate everyone. He just had this like lack of charisma. It's just like, I'm a hero, but I'm gonna do it with an attitude.
Yeah, he was like, he was like, he was like, you can't control me, Chief. I got my own rules. I'm taking down the perps. No, it was funny. I was watching the other day. Funny enough, just while we're on it, I was watching Wolverine Origins.
Yeah.
And what is interesting about that film is, it's not a great film. I know it's not a great film, but it's got a lot of similarities with Logan. And one of the things I noticed with them, just one of them is, so he escapes. When he's just had the adamantium put into him, he goes to an old place, these two old people, and sleeps in their barn.
Yep.
And then he basically gets both of the people killed.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was like, and then in Logan, he does exactly the same thing. He meets those people on the freeway,
on the farm,
goes for something to eat, and gets the whole family killed. I was like, this guy's a dick. He just gets random people killed because he's got big nails in his hand.
That's his curse. Weapon X is always hunting him.
But what I was going to say is, though, by having Wolverine and by having Spider-Man, you have like two sides of the Marvel world, like the young and the old, the sort of naive and the far too experienced. You have
seasoned veteran.
Yeah, you have the dark and the light side, but so you've got that, so it's a clash. But then you have the whole Spider-Man world, and then you have the whole X-Men world. And
well, I mean, not to mention, you could bring in a Wolverine as well, where you've got you've got Peter Parker and Miles Morales. With Logan, you've also got Laura Kinney being X-23. Like, having that in the game as well would be pretty cool to see. You know what I mean?
Please be interesting if they have Deadpool as well. That'd be really interesting, because he'd be really interesting in the game, because he can take the mick out of both sides. Yeah, so there you go. There's those two games are coming probably in 2023, but I think a lot of people will feel like they've got to get that PS5 now.
I'm curious to see. I mean, obviously we don't have this information, but like, what was the interest in PS5 after all those announcements went up? Because I've got to imagine people saw that and went, like, if they didn't have one and they were already PS people, or if they were kind of sitting on the edge like me, waiting to try and figure out which console to go, and was there an uptick in sales?
I think also the interesting thing would be, were they ready for that uptick as well? Was that like, was it like, did they know they had a lot more ready to go? Do you know what I mean? Ready to go out there. So
it would be smart, right? Like, having that ready and in stock and launching it at the same time. That would be, make business sense, do business things.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they've probably got the numbers now.
Yeah.
To cope.
I'd like to think.
But there you go. Let's move on anyway.
I was just saying we don't often talk this long about games, so that was nice. So it was different.
No, but I think that's just we talked about like the whole thing, didn't we? Matrix trailer. We got the Matrix trailer this week. Of course, a lot of people have been wondering what the hell was going on. We knew we were going to get a fourth Matrix film. We didn't quite know what it was. We knew, obviously, Keanu Reeves was back. What did you make of the trailer?
It was just balmy. It was just all over the place. I mean, it was dead exciting, like, but it had, I don't even know how to describe it, you know, like, I was watching it and just thinking, it gave me feels and flashbacks, obviously, to the original Matrix. But the thing, I think that probably grabbed me the most was how this story, even, 20 years later, probably over 20 years later now, still has this relevance to it. Like, you see that bit in the elevator where everyone's sitting on the phones and you're like, oh yeah,
it's got more relevance.
I mean, you've got smartphones, social media, streaming platforms, like keeping you plugged in, keeping you engaged, keep feeding the dopamine and keep them hooked in. So I was just like, oh, they could do some like really cool things with this.
Number one, I think that the special effects look amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, the Matrix hasn't aged. I don't think it's not one of those films that's aged. I think it still looks amazing. But
yeah, that first one especially, you can go back and watch it. And it looks utterly class.
See, what was genius about the Matrix film was it said that the Matrix was set in the height of modern history, so 1999. Just pre internet was there, but it's obviously pre-smartphone. So really clever by doing that, because you watch that film the last 20 years and you're like, well, you know when this is. It's not pretending to be something else. It's 1999. It says it's 1999. It's not trying to be clever. It's not trying to be smart. That's when it is. And that's basically but the world had literally ended 20, 30 years before that. Easily. So everything's moved on, obviously, and the special effects are amazing. I just found it really interesting to be like, what is this? Where are we? How can this be? How can we have this world with Neo in it, and Neo's back in the Matrix and he's back plugged in? I thought the stuff with the blue pills was really clever. The fact of like him taking pills for like anxiety, and that's actually the blue pill keeping him inside. A really good social comment about now people getting drugged up and keeping people how people want them to be
like almost obedient.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, chemtrails and all that. Prince was right.
I was going to say, I think the one thing that struck me a lot with the trailer as well was like, again, and I'm still kind of like on the edge how I feel about this, like good or bad, but it does have a lot of similar tones or similar plot points just based on the trailer to the first one. And I'm wondering, like, are we gonna like rehash the first one? Is this like a reboot? Like, what happened? Because they're smart enough, right, to know not to just go, let's just do the first one, but like different. Because you do have, like, we saw in there like Morpheus, and obviously Morpheus is being recast to his younger self, like a digital version. Because they do cover that in the original trilogy, don't they? Like the Matrix itself is being rebooted, multiple times.
I think that's the thing where we're being caught out. I think what they're showing us is what we want, what will make people go, oh, I understand what this is. And what this is the Matrix 7.0. They took Neo away.
Yeah.
He wasn't dead, or he was dead. But they'd uploaded his consciousness. Don't forget, this is one thing I think people always forget, by the way, when they, or don't take into consideration. Every single person's body is a clone.
Yeah.
In the Matrix, not in the Matrix, but the bodies that are in the batteries, they're clones. They are clone bodies. You can make anything you want. So if you want to make how many Neos are you gonna have? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
you're not going to make billions.
Didn't they talk about that? Like, didn't they say there was prior versions of like the one?
Yeah, they said there was 6 different versions. That's what I'm saying. He said there's been 6 versions of you, right? So this is what I'm saying. There's only going to be so many bodies in those pods. They're not going to have millions and millions of people because they're all clones.
Yeah.
So
non-playable characters.
You could easily have a pod, and in that pod is the clone, and a clutch of the clone is an identity to keep that person's mind ticking over, like they say in it.
Yeah.
And so you put Neo back in, and you give him his life back, but you don't. But because there's something in the code, he's got like the architect said, you've done this 6 times. We keep repeating this. It's the cycle. It's the game. It's literally a computer game. It's the thing. The Matrix is a computer game to keep people entertained in their minds, so their batteries keep working to power the Earth. It's a game, and you have to have a main character, and it's just that Neo's the main character. And every time he breaks out of it, and every time he gets closer to breaking it, and the last time he broke it, but he made an agreement so that the humans that were actually alive could stay alive, and the robots decided that was fine, and everyone was happy. So in this one, not obviously, but I feel like the same thing happens again. They've put him deeper under this time. They've given him all those drugs to make sure that he doesn't come back, because he is the playable character.
I was going to say, and he is a weapon. Because of all, again, you look at it like a video game. He is stacked with all those powers and ability to crash the system. So if you plug him back in, because I mean, I guess you could see him as like the ultimate source of a battery power, like it's mega juice you're putting in the system as well. But you don't want him going off in the wrong direction.
So the question mark is, and I think this is where the film will probably hinge, is. They had an agreement at the end of the last film, which was there's a truce, right? There's a truce. Now, maybe he's in the game, and maybe in the film, he's in a game. Sorry, but you know what I mean. Maybe he's in the Matrix, and they are reaching out to him because the truce is not being kept up. Something's happened, and the truce is gone by the wayside, and they've got to break him out because he's the only person who can fight the robots in the Matrix and outside the Matrix, I imagine. And that to me is probably what has happened. Now that leads me to think, who is Morpheus? Is it the original Morpheus with a younger avatar? Is Trinity, is she the original Trinity, or is she just an avatar within the Matrix and it's not really her? Is it someone to deceive him, to keep him like
placid?
I'm trying to think. No, Trinity reminds me of in the Truman Show when he breaks up with his wife.
Yeah.
And they basically put this woman into play who's like to meet him, and she's like, "Oh,
like
hi,
secret love interest."
Yeah, like we'll give him a secret love interest, and
and
it's like a distraction to it. I feel like Trinity might be a distraction by the Matrix. We'll wait and see, because it looks like she becomes part of... Because ultimately, if he's fighting in the Matrix, that's fine. They want him fighting in the Matrix. That's his job. His job is to be a superhero within the Matrix. What they don't want him doing is getting out the Matrix and fighting outside the Matrix, because his powers somehow go into the real world. So they want to keep him in the Matrix, and I think that's going to be the turn in it, is going from someone who has to break free to them. The mad thing is, it sounds ultimately very, very similar, but I just wonder whether I wonder whether this time there is no real outside and that those people don't really exist. but somehow he knows he has to get out, and it's all about keeping him occupied. And it's actually but
Yeah.
the people last time who were trying to break him out, I actually think they're the people who are trying to keep him in this time. They're gonna all be characters within this the Matrix who we all see as familiar characters who are like, oh, we can trust them, and they're not. I think that might be the twist, and it's these other people, these other characters who are trying to break him out, and the people like Morpheus are like, no, don't listen to them, listen to us. And almost like have a Matrix within a Matrix, like you play the game of breaking out, but because that's what people thought what had happened in the last film, is like there was a Matrix within a Matrix, and actually all those people in Zion, that was still in the Matrix.
Yeah. And
I just wonder whether that's going to be part of it, because I think what the trailer's done is it's suggested to us that it's very, very, it's familiar, it's the same trope. It's just like it's a soft reboot, but not,
it's a bait and switch.
Yeah, and I actually think it's going to be that they're the people trying to keep him in, because they're trying to keep him playing the game within the Matrix.
Well, and I think that if it goes that direction, that'll be interesting then, because I think, some people were saying like, as far as like the recasting of Morpheus and things like that, like, oh, why didn't you bring back Lawrence Fishburne? But if you do it from that perspective, then I think it makes it a bit more easier to swallow, because you've reincarnated this character, but it's not our Morpheus. It's this.
He's 100% in the film. Lawrence Fishburne is 100% in this film.
You think?
No one's telling me he's not in this film. There's just no chance on earth. He's Andrew Garfield in this. There's no chance he's not in this film.
And I'm okay with that. But
yeah,
I think if you have the younger version be the front man and play all of this, but he's not really Morpheus, then it makes it much more when you go to you're like. But by the end, it's kind of like Pulp Fiction. By the end, and I know the film's chopped up, but that's all the executive said. By the end, does he walk away? Is he alive by the end credits? And you're like, well, technically yes, but in the time I know it, that's all you want to see. That new Morpheus, is he really Morpheus or not? And if he's not by the end, I think everyone will swallow it a lot better and say, all right, yeah. And then if you do see like real Morpheus, even better. There's just extra sugar on top.
What if he gets to the architect's office, chair swings round, original Morpheus sitting in the chair, giving it the old, you are the 7th version of Neo.
Ergo, vis-a-vis.
Oh my god. Yeah, don't do all that crap. Please don't do all that crap.
I was going to say, did you catch the little things in the trailer as well? Like there was a part where Neo's sitting in the tube pod, and you can see like the burns around his eyes from the third one. So there's definitely a continuation there. Somewhere. But there's a part where he's running away as well, and it looks like he's running through a movie screen, and the movie screen's been split.
It's playing the video of him.
Yeah, it's playing the video of the Matrix when he gets out. And like, I think this is going to be, if they go like deep meta, I'll love that, because it's just pure Rick and Morty.
Well, Thingo's in it as well, isn't he? The what's his name? The Manavincian. He's in it as well. He's in the trailer, isn't he? No, the dude who likes the French language.
I'm not recalling. I only watched the second and the third one like once, because I just didn't. They didn't click with me as much as the first.
So in the second one, when he goes to, and there's the fella, and he's like a French fella, and he's like just loves the language and swearing in the language. Well, he's in it apparently. But what was cool about him, and I didn't realize this till recently, was he was left over. And the Ghost Twins?
Yep.
So they were left over from one of the original versions of The Matrix, where it was actually a horror game. So they are like proper like ghosts, and they are all like vampires and monsters and werewolves. And they were all from a previous iteration of The Matrix, and they'd been left over because they were obviously programs. Yeah. And they were all there. They were all like left from this like weird haunted house. So I think he's like a vampire, but he's in it. He's in it. The Metavincian.
I was going to say, do you know what's interesting with all of this with the trailer? And I saw loads of this when the trailer launched. How many people went back and started re-binging the Matrix series? And if you're the one with the rights at the moment, like obviously it makes perfect sense in the US because HBO's obviously launching Matrix Revolutions. They have all the rights for the the series, which they just gotten back from Netflix.
Yeah.
Now I don't know where they are internationally. Obviously, do you know where they are in the UK? Or I'm guessing Netflix.
Yeah, they are on Netflix because I actually seen it this week. I actually seen it on the thing.
I'd be curious to see the data to see like if viewing figures went up on the Matrix. People like saw that trailer and went, maybe I should get HBO Max and go watch.
See, what's funny about something like the Matrix is it's 22 years old or whatever it is, and it was like 99, wasn't it? And it was the first real. Yeah, it might have been. It was like the first real. It was like the first real DVD hit. I remember. It was like the first film that wasn't huge on the cinema, but really like took off via DVD. Like proper took off.
Yeah. Because it was one of those films that transcends no matter where you watch it. It's just like the whole concept was just mind blowing.
Yeah. But the thing about it is that you forget that it was because it was so long. Like it's like 22 years. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many kids who would have grown up not ever watching The Matrix because they would have. You're talking the time. Well, you're talking like think about like a 21-year-old or 22-year-old now. There's loads of them who'd never have seen The Matrix. They probably would have heard it and seen like the effects of what The Matrix has had on different.
I mean, at the time, like the soundtrack was everywhere that summer when after The Matrix came out. Yeah. Remember the phone?
With the flip down phone.
But my mate had one of those. I was like, oh my god, that's amazing! Like just in awe that he had the Matrix phone. I was like, what the hell? Like that's I just thought that was like a film thing.
Well, it was fantastic. It's just and it'll just be really interesting to see how it does and how it because listen, it is one of those films that deserves to be to keep going, to have because I know there was other things in there was like the Animatrix, that thing came out and that was really interesting. I had some really good stuff in it as well about like other characters that were in the films getting pulled out of the Matrix and how that happened and stuff. It's a really huge universe that it's like a little bit like Star Wars where you've got this like main big guy, like you could swap Neo out for Luke Skywalker, but then you've got people in other parts of it that would never have heard this name but don't know who he is, like what we're seeing now in Star Wars with the Mandalorian, where you see an episode and they're like, the Jedi, and I've heard of them, but aren't they just like a myth, or aren't they just like, do you know what I mean? There's like a lot of stuff like that you could still do with it, and I just wonder whether we'll ever get any of that stuff off the back of this, because it is such a big universe, or whether they'll just stick with
I mean, it does make me wonder, like, because obviously we thought the last Matrix, like, that was it, finished off a franchise, done and dusted. Now we've gotten this one. So what does that mean? Do they feel like they're trying to get a better ending of it? Because we are seeing some franchises starting to do that now. Dexter is coming back on Showtime because they recognized that that final season it wasn't good enough. It wasn't up to the par of where it should have been. And like, all right, maybe we'll give it another season and see if we can really get to where it needs to be. Is that what's going on with the Matrix, or like you said, do they have plans to like say, we're going to have this movie with Keanu, maybe it's going to launch into other areas?
Well, I think by having the fact that it was they did say, it was like the sixth iteration of Neo, then that does give them a little bit of leeway, because people are like, well, hang on, this happened and that happened, and he, at the end of it, he got took away and his eyes were burnt and Trinity died and all these things, but they can, just by going back to that, they can say, well, yeah, but don't forget that was the sixth version. That we haven't quite explained.
Got a digital backup of your brain. You're never going anywhere, mate.
Well, as I said at the beginning, though, it's like all those things. His body doesn't even have to be him. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a moment in the trailer where you see a reflection of him, and it's
and his
not
face
him.
goes like
It's not him. It's like an older man or something.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say that the person that's plugged into the Matrix looks anything like Neo. It could just have his memories in. You know, I mean, be a bit of a bastard if he wakes up and he's some old fat fella, and he's like, wants to go and kick the arse of everyone. He's like, oh God, I've done me back.
Me back. Me back.
Yeah. It's but
I'm just really curious. Like it's like they've obviously put a lot of money into it. The effects look fantastic. They've gotten a lot of the big actors back, and like you said, it's likely they've probably gotten them all back. But what's it all mean? What's the point or what's the motive of it? You know what I mean? Are you trying to finish this off and just give us a good film, or are we trying to launch into something else? And honestly, I really do believe it's HBO Max, and right now their big thing is launching into a franchise with opportunities that can go other directions. They're doing it with DC. I saw something recently, I think we posted it on social media. They're actually thinking about doing it with the Mortal Kombat characters as well. Not just having like a main Mortal Kombat movie series, but like different character iterations.
Well, aren't they doing a Penguin series as well, aren't they?
Yeah. So that's off of Matt Reeves' Batman. They're doing GCPD, Catwoman, and now Penguin, all tied into Matt Reeves' Batman. So the HBO Max is clearly saying, like,
as well.
Peacemaker with the Suicide Squad. Like, we are launching. We want HBO Max. We're putting money behind the service. I mean, Disney Plus is doing it as well. It's just not as we expected that with Star Wars and Marvel as well.
And ultimately, as I said, then it's been 20 years. The special effects and everything you can do them now is just amazing. You can do anything now you want.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, it's only actually one Wachowski now, isn't it? It's only one doing it. It's not both of them. But she may have sat down and said, "Oh, I really wish I'd done this, or I really wish I'd done that, or I couldn't do that because the technology didn't exist to do it." Yeah.
There's so many variables in it because
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah,
Keanu Reeves wasn't the right age to do this thing I wanted to do, or he didn't fit the profile of the character, or wouldn't it make sense if 20, like I was just saying before about like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, it's like you couldn't have made that film straight afterwards because, well, number one, the book wasn't written, but number two, it's about Harry Potter it's about his kids. Yeah. So who's to say that this idea wasn't there in the background 20 years ago, and she was like, well, I can't do this now. I'd love to do it in the future. Let's see what happens, I don't, listen, who knows? I
mean, honestly, like I think that both of the sisters admit as well, like the second and the third one just weren't up to the par, and it could have just been that the studio was rushing it out and
they were
demanding too much.
Yeah, they made them too quick.
Exactly, like they came out. They did really come out
within
like,
the same
year.
So maybe 2000.
Yeah. So maybe they've just gotten to the point now, where like, look, we've had a bit of time to reflect on what we could have done better. We've got this idea for a new one. Like, let's go with it. So. Cool. I mean, the trailer looks fun. I like you said, that I'm hoping it's a bit of a bait and switch on what we're expecting. I mean, it looks like it's going to get weird and super meta. So bring it on.
And hopefully there'll be more off the back of this as well. We'll have
franchise. To like Deadpool said, we need someone who can carry the franchise for 10 years.
Of course, we got another big trailer this week, and it was Hawkeye, the Disney Plus show, with all the Christmas feels,
all the trappings,
and it looks really good, doesn't it? It looks really fun.
You brought up Die Hard. It looks right in that Die Hard category.
Lethal Weapon, Iron Man 3. It's got that real Christmas, feel about it, because as everyone knows, Die Hard is a Christmas film. It's got that real, like,
no debate.
It's got that real nice blend of like action, comedy, and I've got to get home for Christmas. Like, got to get home for Christmas. That's like the top and bottom of it. We've got to get this sorted because I've got to be home for Christmas. But it just looks really good. It looks, obviously, it's based on the classic Hawkeye comic book.
The Matt Fraction comic.
Yeah. It's got loads of bits from that. It's a nice continuation from, what Hawkeye, experienced being Ronin. The family coming back, being coming off the back of Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, with them finding out he's like a family man and everything. So it really does look like it fits in really well. So certainly with Disney Plus.
Yeah, I was genuinely surprised because I own the Matt Fraction comics for Hawkeye Volume 1 and 2, and they're just so good. But it's Hawkeye in this, like, he's obviously an Avenger, but you just see more of his daily life, and he's just dead clumsy, and he's just kind of like very much like, I don't know, this takes a lot of work, and it's funny. It's a side of a character, and the way it was written was just so good. And I was kind of wondering, knowing that's where they were going, hearing hints of who they'd casted, how they were going to pull it off, because Hawkeye that we've currently seen is a family man. He is an Avenger. He's a spy. Like, he's never really shown that, like, goofy side of his personality, or like that clumsy side of his, like, you've always seen him in, kind of a bit more serious, and like he's always on task, he's on the job, or he's with his family. So that's for me, that was that big ask. Like, okay, well, how are you going to then put him in a situation where he ends up being more of that comic book style character? And I think they've done it pretty well. They found a good way to get him out to New York, and having introducing obviously Kate Bishop and having her play the Ronin character sends, keeps him there, but sends his kids away. I thought that was a really clever way of doing it. But yeah, the overall tone, I think it's going to be funny. I think it's just going to be light-hearted entertainment. It's not going to be, your Loki, your WandaVision. I think it's just going to be a silly, funny one that we can all just kind of sit back and enjoy. I imagine it's probably going to be six episode run.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this one's interesting as well, because obviously it does open up the avenues of, we know that Yelena Belova is going to be coming into it, obviously because of the post-credit scene and Black Widow. It was reported in the trades that there is a new character coming into it called Echo.
Yeah, Echo's in it, yeah.
Yep. And then it looks, there's already been rumors based on the trailer that there are a couple of different, like, big-time villains, and we're in New York. I mean, there has been a rumor not that long ago that, Kingpin was a possibility of featuring this.
I've got a feeling that Kingpin will be in it, because it'd be a fantastic way to introduce him. Echo was a character that was associated with Kingpin, so to get the Kingpin, that we're used to from Daredevil would just be fantastic, because we already know Daredevil characters are coming back into it, so it would be
exactly. And especially being out of like New York, Hell's Kitchen area, like it all kind of just lines up so nicely. So I mean, it has the possibility to be a really fun show, but open up some interesting angles of opportunity, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Who was it who just said in the comics about? Someone just said in the comments about it's directed by Shane Black. I think it was Finn21H. I don't think it is directed by Shane Black, but you can. It is very much feels like a Shane Black product. He directed, of course. He did direct, of course, Iron Man 3. It just looks it just looks like it's the right tone. Haley Steinberg she's can play that comedy action character really well. We've seen that in Bumblebee. It just feels like the right time to do it Christmas as well, because it's funny because I've seen like people say, oh, I wonder if they'll kill Hawkeye at the end. It was like, no, they won't. No, they will not kill Hawkeye at the end of it. He basically says in the trailer, I'll get back to you kids. I'll get back to you kids, no problem, blah, blah, blah. So I can't imagine they're going to kill him at the end of a Christmas show.
No.
Just don't. I think they'll retire him at the end of it. Like, I think this will be like his swan song.
Swan song, yeah.
Yeah, this will be like where I think he's actually already retired from being an Avenger, essentially.
I think I saw some of that in the trailer, there's a part where it's like ex-Avenger or something like that. It mentions specifically like, you know, what he used to do. So, but I think this, like you said, this is the swan song, the passing of the torch. And I mean, hey, this is now an absolutely another product that we're getting that's setting up more Young Avengers.
Yeah.
I mean, since Disney Plus shows have come around, each one has kind of added to that level of Young Avengers. Like,
yeah,
there's a clear pattern there.
What I really like about it is though is this, and I've seen that with Shang-Chi is there is a real passing of the original characters, but it's not really noticeable. It's been like really clever the way they have left the first six, and I know, listen, Thor's still in there and Hulk's still in there, of course they are, but they've passed over the baton so seamlessly that you don't even realize now that, like, because it was done in a certain way. We know what happened to Iron Man, we know what happened to Cap, and we know what happened to Black Widow. But with the Black Widow film, we saw like the passing of the torch in that, and it's so clever the way they've done that. Whereas now you're like, you don't really think about it. You're seeing these new characters, these new Marvel characters who are going to be in the new films, and of course with having like a new Captain America and stuff, it's happened so seamlessly. We just haven't noticed, and it's been so clever. And now we're looking at it with like Doctor Strange is such an important character now, and obviously Spider-Man and the Scarlet Witch, and you think, you know, you went back to like Age of Ultron. You would never think that. Like we had the core six, and now it's like, you know, now it's completely different. You've got like you're looking forward to, you know, you've got Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. You know, Shang-Chi's just come out. Of course, we're going to have a Black Panther 2, but it's not going to be the same without Chadwick Boseman. And obviously, he was supposed to be, you know, part of the second iteration of the Avengers. But they've done it so well, and I imagine this, and they've done it because of things like this. They've done it because things like the Black Widow movie, you know, introducing the new character, letting her play off against the original Black Widow. And this, you'll see the same thing. It's Hawkeye's like one of those characters where you sort of go, I don't know, you know, you sort of like him, but you know, there's not too much meat on the bone. I imagine in this you'll like him, and then so you'll like the idea that he's passing the torch over to somebody else, and you move on with that person. And I think that's been so well done.
Yeah, and it like you said, they've done it all round for, you know, lots of different characters there. But again, it's one of those things we sing the praises of in relation to Marvel, is that, you know, you can look at just the movies and kind of continue on and say, yeah, like, you might not have an idea who like Kate Bishop is once she works her way into the movies, but you'll probably have a general idea. Okay, like if they're calling the Hawkeye, she's got a bow. Like, okay. Like, you don't need to know and go into that if you don't want to. But that's the thing. Like, Marvel's now giving us that extra level. Like, we know there's fans out there that want more. They want that extra level of story, and that's what we're getting through these Disney Plus shows. This extra depth, that meat on the bone, like you said.
Yeah, and of course, like you only have to look at you know, the Scarlet Witch, and you look at WandaVision, and you say, like, who wanted or who thought they needed a WandaVision show, and yet, like, you know, everyone who's watched it loved it, and you've seen the full depth of that character now, and Vision as well, and the kids coming out of that and stuff. They've just done it so well.
It's tough as well, because like you said, like, Marvel's probably always wanted to do like something with like a Scarlet Witch and kind of giving her more time, but you know, from a financial, more corporate side, it's kind of like, can we really put a Scarlet Witch movie like in the theaters? Like, taking everything of the pandemic away, obviously, like if that wasn't there, like, could we just do that and put it out there? It's a bit more like, no one really knows her. She's only ever been cameo in other people's films, but now with Disney Plus, you give that like backstory more time devoted, and there's no risk there because it's on your own platform.
And of course, we know, like, now we know who she is.
Yeah.
you know, she'll be in Doctor Strange. So you know her now. She's a pivotal person in that. You know, the same with what they did with what they've done with Loki, the way they've done with how they've introduced characters in Loki as well, and this will be no different. Kate, you know, by the end of it, Kate Bishop will be the new Hawkeye, and she's the person who's playing is obviously a really well-known actress as well that people already like. She's a very likable person. Yeah. So straight away, you know, you know, it's so organic. It feels so organic, and they've done it really well. But this looks really good. It's just like little things in that. Yeah, the Captain America musical just looks fantastic.
Well, I was going to say, I think it was Tomo in the comments. I've seen this posted around. Yeah. I'm curious to see what you think. But he said, "Did anyone else notice Chris Evans as Thor in Hawkeye?"
Not
in the trailer.
A chance on.
You don't
Earth.
think so?
Not a chance on Earth. Not a chance.
I think if it is, it's gonna be like on the sly, like it's not really gonna be like Steve Rogers. It's like it's just gonna if he is there, I think it just could be a funny little thing, like coincidence, you know.
Okay. I just
no go. You know you want.
No, I was just looking at a comment there, and I was just like, Finn 218 saying, I'll leave that one. It's about Shang-Chi. I'll come back to that one.
Okay.
No, I won't. I'll do it now. I was scared for Shang-Chi with the last Origin Captain Marvel not being a good film, but after watching it, I feel as though it's one of the best Origin films Marvel have ever made. Captain Marvel is a good film. Can people stop saying it's not a good film when it clearly is a good film? Why do people not like Captain Marvel? It is a good film. It's your opinion. You have your opinion, but I think Captain Marvel is a good film, and I really enjoyed it.
I always enjoyed it. Like I'm perfectly fine with a light-hearted film like that. Like I just want to be entertained. Are you not entertained?
I really loved the period, the 90s. I really like her as Captain Marvel. I like Brie Larson for a start.
The Skrulls were fantastic.
I like the Skrulls. I like the music choices. I like how they put it all together. I really like that film, and I don't understand what people's problem is. I really like Brie Larson.
The music was fantastic throughout.
I just wanted. But if you don't like the film, that's fine. That's fine.
Speaking of Skrulls, did you catch the news in the last week that Samuel L. Jackson is in London filming for Secret Invasion, like the Marvel series, not like there's an actual Secret Invasion.
He just turned up.
Samuel L. Jackson's leading the charge. America's taking England back.
To be honest, I didn't see that news, but they do have to film things, and they do tend to film them, a lot of them in London. So
I'm just excited filming's on the way, because I mean, you isn't there Secret Invasion one of the comics you just picked up as well?
Yes, it is. Funny enough, when I was away, I read.
To the man who doesn't read anything.
I read. What did I read? I read. That's what I read. Secret Invasion. Sorry, I'm going mentally. I'm just trying to
We got there in the end.
I did read it. I was thinking about what I hadn't read. What I haven't read is I've got Secret Wars to read, but I did read it. Yeah. I read Secret Invasion. It's good. Yeah.
Secret Invasion, and I love kind of like the little the promos and the commercials they embed into the comic, and I think it's what I like different it's almost like stock photos of just people, and then like one of them's a Skrull. And like you find that like constantly flipping through, and I think it says like "he loves you" or something like that. Like,
he loves you.
Yeah, no, they made a big deal of that. Like at the time when it was coming out, they put these, Skrull commercials basically like everywhere around.
Yeah. No, the ending was good, and then, like what happened at the end of it, and no, I did, and I really enjoyed that, and yeah, I did, and yeah, that's gonna be a good show, and. I imagine it's got good characters in it. It's got good people in it, and
I was to say that, and that features cameos from the Young Avengers as well.
Yeah, for me, they really Like they really can't do any wrong, because even the bad stuff is still not. I mean, it's not bad, but even the lesser quality stuff is still good in my eyes. Like, whether people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like for Marvel, it's weird. Like people like beat up on Ant-Man. I'm like, Ant-Man's a great film.
Yeah,
I never get the hate for Ant-Man. I love it. I can watch it back to back with no issues. It's just such an enjoyable film.
Yeah. I love them all. Yeah. I'm easily bought. No, but this looks really good. It's good to see. Like, I like the little things. Like, he's got he's obviously got like a hearing aid and things like that, just to show how battered he's been, but also how human he is as well. That he's a human being. He's not like, he's had buildings strapped on him and all kinds of stuff going on.
I think
but he's human.
I think by the end of the series, people are gonna absolutely fall in love with Lucky the pizza dog.
Oh yeah,
he's just
of course.
The best dog. He's just such an awesome dog. And the
shouldn't feed pizza to dogs though.
No,
you should. No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. It's a bad example that's a set. But,
shame on you, Hawkeye.
Yeah, it's a bad example to set.
The tracksuit mafia as well are going to be funny. They're just an interesting take on the Russian mob, like this localized Russian mob in New York. It's the comic is mental. It's just so randomly funny. So I'm genuinely excited for the show. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And the trailer, perfect. It did everything it needed to do.
Yeah.
November.
And it comes out, it comes out like a week before December, so hopefully it takes us all the way up to like Christmas week, and then we get the Book of Boba Fett, which is amazing.
I was to say also November we're going to be getting Eternals as well, so we're going to be going from What If, Eternals, Hawkeye.
So hang on, we're not. Are we getting Miss Marvel? We're not getting Miss Marvel this year, are we?
It was rumored originally we were going to get Miss Marvel at the end of this year, but with how I think Loki got pushed back because Loki was supposed to be earlier. So I think Miss Marvel's probably going to be, because that happened with WandaVision as well. WandaVision was supposed to be end of 2020, got pushed into January. So I think that's where Miss Marvel's going to be around late January 22. I'm guessing. Yeah,
and I would have thought that. I would have thought that if a show coming out which was introducing a new character, we'd have 1 million trailers by now.
I think there's going to be some connection to Miss Marvel and something in the Eternals. I honestly think, because I know a lot of people I've talked to with Marvel are like, oh, I'm just not excited about the Eternals, and I think it's just because there's no connection, there's no reason, because again, it's some of it's set in the past. So I think it's going to be one of those Guardians of the Galaxy type situations where people go and watch it and be like, oh my god, there's something in it, you've got to go see if you're a Marvel fan.
No, the Eternals is
bigger things. So
we've got how many more episodes of What If have we got now?
Yes, today's was 6, so we got four more, I think. I think it's only 10 episodes.
So we've got 4 more. That takes us to the middle of October. We get when's
I think Eternals is like November 3rd or 4th.
So we get Venom on the 30th of Venom 2 on the 30th of October. I think so.
I think that got bumped up.
Well, maybe it did. But I'm just thinking about like properties that we've got between now and like certainly between now and Hawkeye. So
Eternals is November 5th.
So we've got that early November. So we've got
and I think I was gonna say I think some of the screenings for Venom 2 are going on at the moment. Actually, someone in the comments was saying one of his mates actually got invited down to the London premiere, which I didn't want to
go. I didn't want to go. I think Everton are playing.
Venom's just not my favourite character at all, so meh.
No, I'm going to go and see it, of course. I'm going to go and see it, because certainly now with the way things are starting to overlap, I think it's important. Yeah. You have to see everything.
Do or die.
You have to see absolutely everything now. We'll go and see it. I was just trying to work out what's on Disney Plus after What If, basically. But I don't think there is anything till
I think it takes a small. I think it takes a small break until Hawkeye.
The whole platform just takes a just as like that. You know that screen they used to have when TV finished in the UK is like just like boo.
Yeah.
Disney will be back in late November to screen Hawkeye.
So I had a funny conversation about this with my wife because we were watching something and it was like 90s based, and how at at 2 a.m. it would switch to an American flag and was like, this ends our daily broadcast, and it was just like the American flag. I was like, oh, did that really happen? I just always thought it was a TV thing. She was like, oh, no, that happens. And I was like, oh, that's definitely not what we saw on our TVs. Do you remember the BBC one with the little girl and the weird puppet thing that sat on her lap?
Oh, yeah.
I showed her to that, and she was like, what the fuck is that?
That was like really disturbing.
She was like, that is a nightmare for you? I was like, yeah. I was like, I just accepted it as normal back then, but yeah, now looking at it, I'm like, looks kind of weird. And it's interesting as well. So Hawkeye looks like it's coming out right around Thanksgiving in the US as well.
Yeah.
But before that, nothing.
I was just looking there to see if there's anything on, but I can't see anything. So it's Wednesday the 24th of November. That's the first episode of Hawkeye. So there's literally nothing now between seeing.
And then
there is
Thursday's Thanksgiving, Friday's Black Friday. So probably decent planning because you're gonna get a lot of people off. So loads of people to watch it.
Episode 2, you'll have a giant TV and lots of bruises.
Yeah. If I survive Black Friday with my shield sword.
It looks really good. It looks really good, and it looks like just looks the right tone for Christmas. And yeah, there you go.
You went to see Shang-Chi. How was it?
I did go and see it. I went on Sunday. Obviously, I was away for the first week, which was really annoying. I had to avoid spoilers like anything. Shang-Chi, not a massive character I'm familiar with. Someone who obviously sort of was someone who was based on Bruce Lee, using the back of that Bruce Lee, and obviously I'd watched lots of stuff about him and try to immerse myself in it, but without sort of knowing too much. And I'd say it's a really, really good film. Really, really high end Marvel origin movie into very much like Black Panther. And what I really liked about it was how it really went into the culture. I for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the film, there isn't a word of English spoken. It's all Mandarin, I think. I don't want to I didn't want to say Chinese then because I know there's different. I think it's Mandarin.
It's Cantonese and Mandarin, yeah.
Yeah. So for the first 5-10 minutes, it's there's no English, and I thought that was really important. important, and it really does jump into the heritage of the character and the character's family and the backstory of the whole thing. Very much like Black Panther does. Yeah. And it was just really well done because there's a lot of origin of not only him but his father and where he come from and what he's done and his mum and different elements. And I just thought it was really well done because there's a bit of back and forth when people sort of explaining things and it take you back in time and stuff. And I really thought it was, again, Marvel at its very, very best, bringing a character in that people mightn't be too familiar with, but you've got that Marvel logo that brings people in, and it feels straight away, you feel comfortable with it. It's got the right level of humor. The action in it is absolutely superb. It feels like very much like like Jackie Chan. It just feels perfect, like as a an action, like as an Asian action film.
Yeah.
And then as the story unfolds and as you start getting like little Marvel bits and pieces dropped into it, they fit into it perfectly. And the after credit stuff is really, really good. Two after credits, one quite early and then one at the very end. So if you're going to see it, and the first one,
the ones that are at the very end, because you're sitting there like, come on.
The first one is like, both of them are like, move the story forward as well. There's not like jokey or anything. They both move the story forward as well. Again, very much like the Black Panther ones, setting up what's to come.
Yeah.
And of course, expanding that universe, the Marvel universe. That's all I'm going to say. Expanding that universe. But also, what I would say as well, because you've already seen it in the trailer, the Wong and the Abomination stuff is really good as well. And that's really interesting. And again, I won't spoil it by saying anything but because you've seen it in the trailer. But again, that's not strictly what you might think it is.
Interesting.
But but it's really, really clever. It's really cleverly done. And I just thought it was a really, really good film. Really lives up to that Marvel growing the universe, taking chances where they weren't allowed to take chances, where they never used to be till Kevin Feige got full control. And what he does, and what I really like about it is, like, they've got a lot of criticism of Iron Man 3 because of they've done the Mandarin and the 10 rings and everything, and it got a little bit of grief, but you can understand why they didn't want to. Because don't forget, when that came out, I think that may have been the last Marvel film that wasn't a fully. I think it was the last one before.
Like it wasn't Marvel Studios. Like that was the one before.
Yeah, it
Marvel
was before.
Studios.
Yeah, I think it might have been before Disney came as well. So it was the last one. I think it was like Paramount or someone they did it with. So they had to be very. They still had people over their heads who were making decisions based on toys and commercial rights and what works and what doesn't work, or what they thought they could sell off the back of it. And I think because of that, they played safe. They didn't want to fully go in on what could be potentially seen as hazardous because it is based off Chinese characters, and there's a lot of political stuff, and we know there's still political stuff because of stuff the main actors said about China and stuff like that, and it may never get released, even though it really does treat the character with, and his heritage with so much dignity. So they waited, and it was right they waited, because they've done it now. They've had full control for a very long time now, but because they got full control, they can do it properly, and they've done it properly. And also they do address Iron Man 3 as well.
Trevor Slattery.
No, they just address it. They just address the fact, like, he addresses, again, without giving spoilers, really, but he addresses Iron Man. Yeah. He addresses the 10 rings in the Iron Man first film.
You kind of imagine you have to own that.
You have to. You have
to take that on. You can't hide away from it, pretend it doesn't exist.
Exactly, and that's what's good about it, is that he actually comes out and says something about Iron Man. He actually says something about Iron Man 3. They don't just brush that under the carpet and go, that never happened. They make use of it in the film and say, this was this and this was that, when his dad is sort of explaining things. So that's all really, really good and really important, and it just comes out so much better, because it deserves. If you're gonna do something and you're gonna use someone else's heritage, you better get it right. And I think they did, very much like they did with Black Panther.
And I think that's what Marvel's been doing as well, like putting people of that representation, like in those positions of power to be able to go and tell their stories. Because I think the director was I think it's Daniel Cretton, who's an Asian American, and obviously the entire cast is Asian American, so you've got all of those influences there for them to want to tell their story, and their family dynamics of how they play into the film, and like have that, especially in a time right now what we're in is like there's a lot of anti-Asian sentiments, especially in the US with the coronavirus and stuff like that. So I think it's important to continue to kind of push these diverse stories out there and have the opportunity for Asian American kids to be like, there's a superhero that looks like me. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think that is really important. And I think not only that though, I think people, and this is where for years where people didn't give enough credit to the audience, is that people like seeing other people's heritage brought into things. Like honest, not being funny, right? But every time I see Black Panther, or every time I'm watching something like the What If episode, and you hear that
kind of like
sound.
Echoey drum,
when you hear the echoey drums, you heard it in Falcon and the Winter Soldier when I just straight away I just go, oh, that's brilliant. I love that. I just love it. And in every episode like that, he's been in like Black Panther or something to do with Black Panther's been like What If, and you hear it, you just can't help but be like, oh, that's so, oh, that's just. And it's the same with this, because we've all.
I was gonna say that's a good point. Like, does it have like its like signature music or something signature about it that like?
I don't think so, because not really, because it don't, not that I noticed. But what I would say is, it sort of, it deals with both sides of it. Deals with the American like version, of Asian culture.
Yeah.
And it deals with the traditional side of it as well, really, really well. They balance each other out. So with Black Panther, a lot of it felt like it was in this world which was closed off from everywhere else, and there is a touch of that in this. But because the characters come from the American side of things, in the American Asian world.
Yeah,
you're introducing their world into a traditional world, whereas in Black Panther, you were introducing the traditional Wakanda set of people into the larger world. So they were bringing their culture to us, and in this, it's like almost feels like the other way around. It's and yeah, you go and see, you'll understand where I'm coming from. The it's just a really well done film, and the touches that link it to the larger Marvel universe are really clever as well. Doesn't hit you over the head at all. There's a couple of nice little things that revert back to the larger universe. There's a couple of things on posters to do with like the blip and stuff, because of course if there'd been like if something massive had happened in the world, with half of the population had been disappeared and come back 5 years later, there's going to be mention of it, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be mention
literally worldwide.
Yeah, of course.
It's a cosmic event,
but again, they don't beat you over the head with it. It's just mentioned, and there's a couple
those
of things.
Those little seeds kind of for fans to kind of pick out.
Yeah, so no, I really enjoyed it, and honestly, I think you've got to see it on the cinema if you can, because it's really important, and because watching movies at home is crap, no matter what anyone tells me. No matter who tries to convince me, it has to be seen on the. I went on the IMAX, and the IMAX was amazing.
Well, I was going to say it's currently sitting on Rotten Tomatoes with a fresh score of 92%, an audience score of 98%, which is pretty damn good. I mean, that just tells you all you need to know about that film. If you're sitting on the edge and thinking, I think everyone I know who's been to see it absolutely loved it. Well,
again, as I said, you wouldn't have got that sitting on your couch. But what I would say is it's definitely Black Panther kind of level of things. Like if you loved Black Panther or just loved how it expanded the universe, you will really like this. And the action in it is phenomenal as well, like really phenomenal. Like the hand-to-hand fighting.
Does it put Iron Fist to shame?
Do you know what? I never watched Iron Fist. I never watched it.
That tells you all you need to know about Iron Fist.
It looked crap. It looked crap.
Not good.
But it does not put to shame, but it makes Daredevil look very ordinary. And Daredevil was fantastic in the fighting.
Yeah. But those fight scenes were. But there's definitely, and I appreciate that as well, because like Shang-Chi is like, his whole thing was the master of kung fu. So like having the fighting element there just be a cut above and smooth and consistent, because Daredevil, as we know, his dad was a boxer, he was a boxer, so he's always having those fighting styles be unique to him is good, and I like that. You know what I mean? I appreciate for Shang-Chi that he's a better fighter.
But also in this though, there's a reason why he's such a good fighter, and that's really important as well. And what I would say, it's got nothing to do with anything unearthly or anything like that. There's a reason why he's such a good fighter, and it's actually a big part of the narrative later on.
Yeah.
His fighting ability, but it's like, if you ever watched the like Jackie Chan film, but then when I say Jackie, I mean a proper Jackie Chan film, not like his watered down Hollywood stuff later on in his career where he maybe can't do as much because he's getting older. I mean his proper stuff when he was like younger. It's honestly some of the physical fighting, and it doesn't lead to like physical comedy as such. There's that physical comedy fighting style. It's just the way like when you see Jackie Chan stuff and he's like using physical things like his clothes and stuff to use. It's like it gets a bit like that, and it's so good. So honestly, go when you can. As I said, it should be in the cinema for probably another 2 or 3 weeks, I'd imagine, before it hits. I'm not to be honest, I'm not entirely sure when it hits streaming platforms, but try and catch it beforehand, just because you don't want it spoiled for you, because it's got so many nice little surprises in it and deserves to be seen how it should be seen, which is in a cinema.
Curious to see. I'm trying to look up at the moment to see how much it's currently made. So it's actually, I mean, it's actually doing very. I mean, I think we've been texting about it. Obviously, like it's been doing well, but in the US, it's currently at 150 million. International, it's doing about 112. So it's a gross of 262 million.
I'll tell you something now.
For a pandemic film, is very good.
What I would say is, it would be such a shame if this film does not come out in China, because it's so respectful to Chinese heritage, so respectful, and I don't know what's being said. I don't know, but there's nothing in this film that suggests anything other than China and Chinese culture is fantastic. Like, it makes China look great. It makes the culture look great. It makes the new culture, the old culture, whether you believe that for real, it doesn't really matter. Honest to God, this film, if it went into China, would I genuinely believe it would push it to $1 billion.
Yeah,
no problem. Honestly,
it's such a shame as well with some of that stuff, and a lot of it comes down to the structure of the company, but even like the sentiment, because there's definitely, I don't want to overgeneralize, but I mean, there's a good amount of anti-American sentiment there, especially when it's anti-American Asians as well. Like, they're not really Chinese and things like that. It's tough to see, because again, it sounds like this is a really good film that just kind of, like you said, pays homage to the culture and the traditions and things like that.
And it pays so much respect to like a lot of like the mythical stories of in China and stuff, and things that we've seen in other contexts, and they're mythical creatures and things, and all these kind of things that all play their part in this film one way or another.
And I think we've seen some of those in the trailers, haven't we? Like I think the food dogs or something,
food dogs like that, and things like that. And there's a real reason for all that kind of stuff as well, though. There's a real reason, and there's a real because Shang-Chi's father's been around for so long as well. that he's fought and conquered so much of the world and in the shadows and all. It's honestly, I think the Chinese could use it as propaganda. This film, because it just pays so much respect. Yeah. But there you go. So
I'm excited to go see it now off the back of that. I hope everyone else is excited. If you haven't gone to see it yet,
don't sit round and wait for it to come on Disney Plus. Don't, honestly. Just, I know it's not easy to get to the cinema, and we're still very much in a pandemic. But if you've got a spare couple of hours and it'll probably get less and less in the next couple of weeks. I think just try and go and see it, because you don't want it spoiled for you. You want to see it you want to see it how it deserves to be seen, and it's a really, really good movie. So
yeah, I mean, and hey, like it's obviously doing really well financially again. Probably pulled in the most of any film since the pandemic has started. So that's excellent. I mean, that's what you want to see, because I mean, I know there was some comments from Bob Chapek, the Disney president, saying, you know, they were experimenting with Shang-Chi, just having it as a theater release, and that caused some of the stars of Shang-Chi to come out and like, we're not an experiment to be done. Like, this is an important film for us.
It is an important film for them, and they were absolutely right, and he should never have come out with that. I understand his sentiment.
I was going to say he bad phrasing to be used.
Just bad sentiment, just because people put the heart and soul into film, especially when it's like this, when it's someone's heritage. To say it's an experiment was just like really, really poor. That's something that should have been kept, you know, into a private meeting somewhere. But it looks like it's doing well, and you know, we're going to get the Eternal soon as well, and I imagine that'll do well off the back of this.
Since this has done so well, I have heard around a couple of the trades that Disney are probably eyeing up for the majority of their autumn and winter slate, that it's just going to be theatrical only.
It should always be theatrical only. I'm not going to have this argument with you ever again. It should always be theatrical.
It was a good discussion.
I think for at least the first 17 months, it should only be on the cinema. They got as Finn says, they did get it completely wrong with Black Widow, and it destroyed not only.
I still, not to open up the discussion again, but Black Widow, you can't compare Black Widow and Shang-Chi side by side. You can. Not as properties.
No, you can't.
We'll take this offline, Ped.
No, you can't. Listen, the simple fact is, if you do not give people an option, they have to see it one way, and if they want to see it, they will see it. That's the simple fact. And I just, okay. I just think 3 months on the cinema that's what it should be, and then it can move on to streaming, and that's because if you love watching films, the best way to do it is in a cinema, and it's not this. We can have both. We can't have both. We can't have both. We just can't, because cinemas, their bottom lines are so thin at the moment that it will end up shutting cinemas, and then we will get less films coming out. And less films means less cinemas, and it'll just keep going down and down and down and down. And relying on big, huge films from Marvel every 4 months can't save cinemas. It just can't. So get off your asses and go and see this film and support the movie industry and all those people who are in it.
You've heard it from Ped here.
That's what I say. If you want to see a film, stop being lazy and go and see it. Stop. It is pure laziness. It's pure laziness.
I think there's a bit more to it than laziness, but
all I'm going to say is, if you haven't seen a film in the pictures by 4 or 5 weeks, it's just lazy. If you couldn't have found 2 hours within 4 or 5 weeks, it's pure laziness. Just get your kids and just leave them by the road and give them a couple of dollars and just say, entertain yourselves, we'll be back in 2 hours.
The last time I went to see a film was February 2020, and we went to see Sonic. Don't get me wrong, I love going to cinema, but pandemic around, it's too hard to risk, especially in the US. You see in our numbers.
Is it though? Though? You've been double jabbed. Get on with it. Get on with it.
All right.
Just get
anything else?
No, that is it. We are done for another week. Make sure that you come over to our Discord and join in with all these great debates that we have. We have them all in Discord on all kinds of mad subjects. Every subject. You find out all the details for that on our socials at Nerds Social Club. Get over Twitter. You'll find the link if you want it. Facebook, Instagram. Make sure to check out. We do have our own YouTube channel as well. If you give that a subscribe, that will mean that the more people who subscribe to it, the more chance we can do this video live on there rather than on the Toffee TV platform. Just simply because we know we get more people.
Yeah.
We know we get more people watching on here because there's more subscribers, but we're trying to build that. So please do that as well. We'll be back next week to talk about whatever's going on in the nerds world. There's always something. There's always something going on. So we'll catch you then. See you later.